The goal of today is to answer your questions. So if there's something that you know you want to ask, please note that you have the Q&A available and accessible to you. I'm going to close the chat window so that it's not popped up on my screen and I can at least see the slides. I have a small set of just tasks and overview information to share with you about what it means to be part of our admitted student class. So I know that your students tell you everything and that they have everything covered, but just in case, I wanted to make sure you're aware of what's happening in the Office of Admissions and what we expect from students. And so with that in mind, I'm going to start with the important thing, which is congratulations and welcome to the UC Santa Barbara family. If your student received an offer of admission to UC Santa Barbara for the fall of 2025, welcome, welcome, welcome. We want you and your student to be part of our family this fall. We expect that for UCSB, about 5,000 new freshmen will join us this fall. There were quite a few students who have already said, yes, I'm coming. For those of you who are still thinking, I don't know, I want to weigh all my options, we totally get it. Not a problem. Students have until May 1st to submit a statement of intent to register. Internally, we call that the SIR, so to say yes or no to that offer of admissions. There's a lot of resources accessible and available to you and your students. The biggest one is probably going to be that admitted student page. So I'm not just going to put the QR code there, but I am also going to showcase that that page, that URL goes into the chat should you want to bookmark it. There's going to be a lot there. This is a link that we shared with your students. So right here, that little tower, that's our button, and that button takes your students to a public web page. That web page is going to give students information on what to do, their steps to enrollment, their conditions of admission, video playlists, a whole bunch of information. So if your student has yet to share that with you, I'm putting it in the chat so that you can open that up and see a lot of what we're expecting of your student. Visiting us is also a thing that we encourage families to do. We know that physically taking time off of work may not be possible Monday through Friday. So I'll make note that we added a few extra Saturday tour options. I was looking this morning, and even tours next Saturday, April 5th, are open and accessible. So if that's something that's interesting to you and your family, please note, we would love to have you join us. Our big open house date is Saturday, April 12th. Yes, Saturday, April 12th, which means you can come. The entire campus is accessible to you. That open house date allows you to take guided tours. You don't have to register for one. There's going to be one leaving every 15 minutes between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. You can talk to academic advisors. You can sit in on lectures. You can learn about financial aid sitting one-on-one with an advisor. So our big visit date is that April 12th. We would love to have you on campus. Though, of course, you can visit on your own any day, Monday through Friday. We'll have our visitor center open. Saturdays in April, our visitor center is open. So there's lots of ways to get to know us. Um, I will also point out that when it comes to the admissions process, a lot of information for you is going to be on this parents and supporters webpage. Our ambition with that page was to give you the opportunity to get things like links for our open chats. So there's today's link, for example, opportunities to get to know more about us. So please note that these are there for you and your family to have access to the campus representatives to sort of see when we make announcements and updates. Again, I know your child is probably keeping you in the loop with everything, but should you want to have your side panel of information, we've got links to presentations, videos, all the fun things there for you and your student to digest, to think about, to have a conversation over dinner about, etc. One other thing that's important for us is that when it comes to the application process, so many students apply without knowing some facts about Santa Barbara. And so I wanted to share a little bit about our current student enrollment at UCSB. Currently, we have about 26,000 students on campus. That's going to be a small differential between our graduate and our undergraduate students. If you're looking at numbers, about 23,000 grad students, sorry, 23,000 undergraduate students are at UC Santa Barbara and less than 3,000 graduate students. For us, it's a matter of really being able and accessible to have students see themselves on campus. And since undergraduates are the majority of our students, many of these services are geared at supporting you and your student through their 4 years of university degree. Though I will say more and more students come in with college credits, those dual enrollment credits, running start credits. They come in with AP exam credits. And so in that particular instance, we're actually seeing many students, about 5% of our students who graduate in 3 years. It's kind of scary that they're that smart, but it's also fabulous, though they have 4 years with us. We get a lot of questions about where students reside. So I'm sharing a grid of our student profile that shows where students live, percentages, as well as raw numbers. So if you're sort of looking at Isla Vista, which is the campus community next to Santa Barbara's campus, and then all the family graduate, undergraduate apartments, it's about 80% of our students who live walking, biking, or skateboarding distance to class. All right, those are the big things I wanted to share with you in sort of a visual slide deck. I want to make sure I'm answering your questions. So I'm going to go and straight and start with question number one in the Q&A and sort of migrate down and see how many questions we can answer. We will be looking at whether or not it makes sense to do an open chat where it's a meeting room as opposed to a webinar room for future parent chats. So if that's something that you want to chime in on, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, let's ask some questions. So, Rick, hello, my friend Rick. Your question is, if my student has private health insurance through my employer, do they also need to carry UC health insurance? Great question. And I'm actually going to open up one of our web pages. And so that is UCSB SHIP student health insurance. And so for Santa Barbara's campus, actually all the UC campuses, students must have insurance coverage that covers them on the UCSB campus. So I'm going to make sure that this screen, hopefully you're seeing a web page that's UC Ship. Let me copy and paste that, put it into the chat for you as well. And so when it comes to student health insurance, the answer is they have to have coverage that covers them in Santa Barbara County. If your health insurance covers them, then no, you don't need ours. That's the easiest answer. So students can actually go through and sign a waiver. That waiver allows them to submit, hey, this is my current insurance. Here is how I've got coverage. So they can submit a form online. None of this is an action item until after a student says, yes, I'm coming to UCSB, because there's nothing to waive out of until you're a currently enrolled student. I think their deadlines are usually over summer. So yeah, September was last year, so that's probably going to be pretty similar to this year. And students will find that we'll send out an email about UC SHIP and the waiver process come the month of June so that you have all of this in place. Thank you, Rick, for asking that question. And since I know that there were a few things that were being talked about with regards to student health, let me also point out that the medical services that are listed for our UCSB students, so there's an opportunity to see doctors on campus within our student health. There's opportunity for psychologists, there's opportunities for clinics, there's opportunities for lab services, there's a pharmacy, all of that lives within walking distance of their residence halls. So that's super easy. For many of our students, this is a really big component if they're receiving health in their city. They want to make sure that they have those opportunities for here. And then some students find that their current parent health insurance doesn't cover everything. And so there's also gap health insurance. That gap insurance allows students to have additional coverage at a reduced rate. So all fun things that I know, and no, I don't know everything about student health. So if there are additional questions, I can definitely put you in touch with the individuals who are in charge of that. Okay, let's keep going. So question. Ooh, lots of housing questions. Are you guys sad that your child is leaving you? Is that what I'm feeling? Or are you excited? Ooh, I should have a poll question for that. Okay, so question. Do I fill out housing applications if my child does not know what type of dorm she wants to live in? And how does housing work? Okay, so I want to point out that you are technically not filling out housing. Your student is doing it. Yes, yes, I know that it's your student's responsibility. So let's talk a little bit about housing, shall we? Now, when it comes to housing, we guarantee students a spot in campus residence halls within their first year, guaranteed, as long as they meet the housing deadline, which this year means submitting an SIR, that statement of intent to register, by May 1st, and then filling out a housing application by May 15th. So again, no action item immediately, and no filling out a housing application today or 2 weeks from now or on May 15th doesn't change your chances. Everyone gets the opportunity. And as long as that housing application comes in by May 15th, on May 16th, housing will start looking at how many students requested a space and then allocate additional resources. Action item to take right now. Your student can go onto the housing.ucsb.edu webpage. They can see the differences in room types. Here's something that's really important. I throw this out there. There are some singles, but those are massively limited, and oftentimes we allocate those to students with medical needs. And so if your student is looking at housing, recognize that the probability is that they will be living with a roommate or two. Triples are pretty common. That's how we're allowed to guarantee housing for all of our incoming students and also have housing options and in a lottery format for our continuing students. So you'll be able to see that there are within campus housing 9 different residence halls that are affiliated with UCSB. 5 of these are going to be on the southern point of campus, overlooking the water. So, yes, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It's a hardship, but someone's got to do it. Um, 2 of the buildings we call high rises. They're 8-story buildings. You're going to find that there are different amenities based off of each building, and that might be a factor for where a student wants one building versus the other. So I want the residence hall that has the surf racks because I'm planning to be surfing every day, and so I want to have that. And you'll see that San Nicolas happens to have surf racks, whereas Manzanita does not. So these are the things that your student will be looking at. Their housing application is going to be accessible to them usually the day after they say yes to UCSB. The day after they say yes, they'll fill out that housing application. They'll be able to go to the housing application process site, click on the button that says I'm a new freshman, and fill out information. They're going to need to use their UCSB Net ID, which is one of the steps in the SIR process. If they don't have that allocated, they'll be able to log in without it and sort of start the process. They're going to want to do what we call the precursor to a roommate match. And so one of the things that's important is your student will fill out a questionnaire. I'm extremely tidy. I am not. I'm a light sleeper. I usually wake up before 8 o'clock. These are the questions that are on that questionnaire for housing. Why? Well, because after a student says, yes, I want to live on campus, the computer system will randomly assign students a pastime. And then they're going to log back into UCSB's housing portal. And in July, typically, they'll pick their room. And this is kind of like concert season 101. They're going to go and say, I want this building. I want San Nicolas, and I want to be on the second floor. I want this room, and I want this bed. So, kind of like concert tickets, they're going to pick their space. For students who are going, I don't know who I'm going to live with, they're going to hover over and see answers to these questions so that they're making a match that will allow for a good fit and a good living environment. That's probably more than you needed to know about housing, but I wanted to share that information. There are definitely great reasons for living with us. While it's not required, it is an option. The big bonus is that they're 9-month leases, so it's the academic year, fall, winter, and spring quarters. Students aren't tied to being on campus during summers. They're not paying utilities. That's all part of their housing contract. They have in the housing units also for dining commons. So if someone's going to cook for them breakfast, lunch, and dinner should they need or want it. Um, Costs between buildings don't exist. It's how many roommates do you have and how many meals will you be purchasing during a given week. So that's sort of the allocation between which is the best dorm. I get that question all the time, and the reality is everyone's going to say their residence hall was the best one. We do not allow for students to take tours of the dormitories because students are living there, and having 3,000 people walk into your home is not a safe measure. And so during open house, Saturday, April 12th, housing will recreate residence halls. Housing will have all of their staff available. It's a great way to get all of your housing questions. So again, it's not first come, first serve. It is fill out an application by the 15th, get an assignment that's randomly placed to you to then pick which residence hall you want. All right, so I think I answered a lot of the housing questions, but let me scroll through and make sure that I didn't miss anything. What about housing for sophomores or second year students? And that's going to be a lottery system. So in the fall quarter, students will raise their hand and say, I like this, I'd like to stay. And they'll be put through a lottery. And then in January, February, assignments are given out and students are then put on wait lists. Most of our students, though, tend to move into our college community of Isla Vista. And so many of our students still love walking, biking, or skateboarding distance to class. Off-campus housing in Isla Vista, on-campus housing is pretty similar. Off-campus, maybe it's going to be a little bit cheaper, but then you're paying water and electricity and Wi-Fi, and all of a sudden it's pretty similar to on-campus living. For your students that don't know how to cook, they can purchase a meal plan in the dining commons, so that might be a little of an extra cost if they're living off campus. Okay, and I think I answered that question about housing costs. Is it guaranteed? Housing is guaranteed. And then is it possible to tour housing? Already answered that one. Oh, can our kids request roommates? Yes. Um, in the housing application that they're going to fill out by the 15th, students have the ability to say, I have roommates. So if it's one person or if it's two, if they're in a pod, they can find themselves saying, yes, I want to live with Rachel and Rachel wants to live with me. Students will need to know that the full name of their future roommate and their perm numbers, and that's then put into the application. If a student has roommates, then when it comes to assigning housing and again, picking that housing bed, room, building, the first person with an allocated housing window will then put everybody into that room. Um, so that's like having again, that ticket price and going in and saying, all right, I want to go to the concert and I'm going to buy tickets for all three of us because we're living together. Now, if if I want to live with Rachel, but Rachel doesn't add me to the application, then that is not a match. So the only way for the match to happen is if all parties request each other. So just a point of reference. I sometimes get parents mad at me. My kid wanted to live with her best friend. But her best friend didn't want to live with her. Oh, I know. So there you go. In that particular sense, that's one of the things to note. Our housing webinar, where you're going to get a whole bunch of details from UCSB's housing, is happening on April 16th. I can put that link into the chat. I would highly, highly encourage your student, if they're interested in learning more about housing, to attend that webinar. Last question about housing that Vivian asked is there a deposit? And the answer is no. There's no housing deposit to request university housing, though I will point out if a student chooses to cancel a housing contract, there are going to be limitations there. The information with regards to canceling a contract and fees is on the housing webpage. Okay, lots of housing. Are there female? The housing is co-ed by building, and there are some buildings that are co-ed by floor, but the majority are going to be single gender based off of either a floor or a wing. Okay, there we go. I answered the co-ed question. I answered female only floors. Sweet. Okay. I answered that it's guaranteed but not a requirement. And then roommates. Perfect. Wow, you guys, are you worried about your child leaving you? No, one of you is excited and you've already chosen that the room your child is vacating in your house is going to be your new yoga studio. I applaud that. I really do. All right, let's go back up and talk about that first question asked, and that is UCSB is considered a party school. It is? What are the statistics? How often is campus police involved? Those are great questions, and I'm excited that you asked. And luckily, I have a slide. So, in your students' applicant portal, they have a link to our Clery Act information. UCSB is accredited, and one of the federal accreditations requires that we show all of our statistics. And so Clery Act is where we put in last year, the year before, and so on and so forth, reports on anything that happens on campus or adjacent to campus. I will point out that adjacent to campus is Isla Vista. That is where not just UCSB students reside, but about 13,000 college students live in Isla Vista, not all of whom are UCSB students, but 90% of them are. What's also in Isla Vista is the county sheriff's office. University of California Police Department is on campus, as well as fire and EMT. The UCSB Police Department hires anywhere between 70 to 100 students to be community service officers. Those CSOs are escorts that help students bike, walk, skateboard anywhere on campus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They patrol the residence halls to make sure that once the building closes at 10 p.m., I don't have a key, I don't have entry. And so if someone locks themselves out, things of that nature, they call CSO for those. So those are our ways of making sure that students have a safe environment to be in. Okay, here we go. Let me go back to the Q&A, which is the only thing I have open. And let me make sure that oh, and party school. I think this is the hardship. I'm a UCSB alum, and yes, there's that aspect there. I've got a lot of my younger staff on campus who will say that they had a great time, and sure, but I then throw out we're also a tier one research institution. The difference with us and other universities is that all of that external nocturnal activity, it's happening next to campus. You're not jumping in a cab and going into the downtown area. You're not doing something outside of the city. It's there. And so I recognize that we have that reputation, and then I throw back, but we also have the reputation of being a tier one research institution with 6 Nobel winners. Over 60% of our students do research. So potato, potato in the sense of, is that something that's forced on you? No. 1 in 4 students say they never participate in those activities. We've put over $1 million a year to make sure that students have access to things that do not include the party vibe. So I throw that out there for you to think on. Okay, let's see. Next question. Can you tell us about security? I already answered that one. And then questions. I'm concerned my son's FAFSA information was not correct, and his factor for his financial aid. Who can I contact? Ooh, that is a great question. So let me go up and share with you. Doom, 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 doom. Here we go. So there's a few things to make note of. Your student in their applicant portal has access to a button that says check my financial aid status. It's going to be right above their name in their admissions portal. When they click on that, they're going to be able to see that they can access financial aid, and the financial aid webpage includes access to their email. So I would say that your best bet if you've got questions about financial aid and sort of the accuracy of the information, it would be to start with the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. FineAid at sa.ucsb.edu. You want to get a faster answer? The email should come from your student, the email associated with their UC application. The email should have their student's first and last name, and it should have the UCSB perm number. That perm number is listed in the student's applicant portal. Right now, it's sort of grayed out so that students don't accidentally post it because it should be kept confidential. But those three things are how you communicate with any UCSB department. From the student in their UC application email, student's full name and their perm number. That's the email that they send to the Office of Financial Aid. All right, question. And this is from Justin. Unofficial grants and scholarships. Can you explain the process for how to secure these funds? I can do my best. And so your student will find that if their financial aid was already submitted to UC Santa Barbara, when they click on that Check My Financial Aid Status button, they're going to see whether or not they have successfully had it sent to UCSB, and that will be a green circle with that checkbox. If there's an X there, it means you didn't send it to Santa Barbara or it hasn't been processed yet. And so those are just two factors I want to remind you. The student will want to click on View My Financial Aid, and that financial aid, oh no, I covered it. There we go. That financial aid will then showcase an offer to students. If you're asking about sort of grants and scholarships, these are actually hyperlinked. And so I can click on Cal Grant, I can click on Pell Grant, I can click on all those different links that are being offered to me, and I can then get a better understanding of if there's an action item. For example, if I'm being offered a loan, what's the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized? I can click on those links and then that will share action items as a family member that will be responsible. If we're offering you a scholarship or a grant, those are automatically going to be placed in your financial aid at UCSB. So just note that if you're looking at that particular information, you've been offered it, how do you secure it? It's going to be automatically delivered as long as all the information is accurate and you accept your admission to UCSB. When it comes to financial aid, we've partnered with the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships to explain a lot of financial aid. If this is your first child going off into college, you might have questions on how does it all work? When do I pay? What do I do? And so we created a financial aid award playlist on YouTube. So how to read your financial aid letter. What was the application process like? How do I read my estimates? Before I owe, how do I take out loans? All of those things in place. How do I secure the scholarship universe access at UCSB? This playlist is available. The QR code will showcase that for you. I'll do my best to try to get that link into the chat as well. Okay. Let's see. I saw a whole bunch of financial aid questions pop up, so let's see if I can answer these as quickly as possible. When do students know about scholarships and fees? Great question. So at this point, students will have found any state and federal scholarships will be allocated onto their award letter. Technically, the financial aid deadline, April 2nd for our California families, it's not here yet, so you might not have filed, but if you did, you'll be able to see that award letter again from the applicant portal, not the financial aid portal, the applicant portal at UCSB's admissions office. It will link you to this webpage. This was posted on Friday of last week. And so if your student saw their admissions letter, but they haven't gone back in, they want to go back and check that financial aid. The final fee assessment for UCSB, this is a hard one. There are quite a few things that are changing, but we've got sort of the grad cohort, and I say grad cohort. So we have what's called cohort tuition. I'm not sure if you knew about that, but tuition is going to be set for a student. So tuition will not be changing in your sophomore, in your junior, in your senior year at UC. That tuition is locked in. And so what was the 24 cohort and what's the 23 cohort, that's different. That's past. Um, but those fees are locked in. And that's posted on the financial aid webpage. So again, I'll try to put that link into the chat for you. Okay. Question. My son got into CCS. Oh, wait, hold on. My oldest son went there 9 years ago, and he said the parties helped him mature. Now he's married and a son, and partying is the last thing on his mind. All right. I like it. Thank you. Let's see. Did I miss any other financial aid questions? No. Okay. I'm going to scroll back up and make sure that I'm answering questions as they came in. Sandy is asking, are they allowed to take their cars with them? Some colleges don't, and is there an additional cost? So if your child wants to bring their vehicle, they are more than welcome to, but on-campus housing and a parking permit for on-campus residence halls is going to be limited. So they might have to parallel park in Isla Vista. But yeah, they can bring their car. Once a student is allocated a spot in the residence halls over the summer, they can then go to our transportation and parking services website and request a student permit. It will be an additional cost anywhere between, I think it's $350 to $400. Don't quote me on that one, but I know it's more than 350 and I think it's around $400. And that's per year, and that's fall, winter, and spring quarter. All right, question from Lena. If the student applying to CCS, if a student is applying to CCS right now, can UCSB give them a decision before May 1st? Lena, can we talk? So the CCS application deadline was January 6th. So students were asked to look at CCS. The supplemental application for CCS is evaluated by a faculty committee in that major. So that faculty committee planned to get together in January and February to review applications. If a student submits a supplement today, well, guess what? It's spring break. Faculty are not looking at it. What about next week? Well, it's week one of spring quarter. Faculty aren't going to be looking at it. And so I can't guarantee how quickly a supplemental review will be evaluated. I know, I know. And so CCS says 4 to 6 weeks in order to get a response back from a CCS supplement that is completed. So sometimes students only do partial. So I'll throw out, I can't guarantee it. That's my short answer, but it can't guarantee it. But the sooner it goes in, the sooner it will be in front of faculty. That's my requirement for students. And I'll also point out that the admissions is there. You're admitted to UCSB. The request for CCS can come later. All right. Question. I've got any differences between schools provided health insurance and other commercial. Oh, I'm gonna move that question off because I don't have an answer to what's the difference between our health insurance and others. I'm not an expert in that, but I can again put that health insurance link in the chat for you. Question, can you talk about freshman housing? I see on forums that it's difficult crisis. Ooh, um, not sure what forum you're on, but I get a housing update every month, and I can tell you right now that there were residence hall spaces that were open in spring quarter, and that in the campus community there are still openings. So I can tell you that if a student is working with my UCSB campus housing, not looking at other forums, but UCSB campus housing, they have a list of all the availability in town, including working with landlords to see where there are space openings. So I might not be able to necessarily get my own apartment because I want it, but UCSB housing will tell me there's a room in a house. Here's the option if you want to make those connections. I can tell you that that's the last I heard of in the month of March was there were still open and available spaces on campus and in the adjacent community. So I was really happy about that. 3 years ago, that was a totally different story, but today I can tell you that we're being very proactive to make sure that students know what is accessible and available. Question. If a student has, my daughter is still be able to visit the student health center if they don't have the university health insurance? The answer is yes. Thank you for asking that question. If your student does not have UC SHIP, what they're going to find is that they still have access to our student health insurance. The difference is probably going to be in how you get reimbursed. You probably will pay up front and then you'll have to do a claim with your external health insurance. Question. We live in Texas. I'm going to be in Texas next weekend. Come say hi to me. I'll be in Dallas on the 5th. Question. The $84,000 expense is very high. Will UCSB help out-of-state families with situations like ours? So financial aid is going to be dependent on that FAFSA submission and what is and is not reported. And then I would say financial aid one-on-one sessions to understand where that bridge might be is going to be massively important for you. Question, is there any way to see which of our students' college credits will earn that they earned in high school will be accepted to UCSB before we commit? It would be legwork on your part, but you could do some of that searching. Yeah, you totally could. So UCSB is going to ask students to report within their applicant portal, to report all of their AP credits, all of their IB credits, and all of their college credits through official sources. And so what that means is AP is monitored by College Board. So I'm going to ask for the AP scores from College Board. IB is through International Baccalaureate, so I want the official scores from IB. And then college credits must be posted on a college transcript. So what do I do? Where do I go? Well, when it comes to AP exams, UCSB AP translation chart. Um, okay. Find, copy, and paste, open chat. I can do this. I can do this. Okay, here we go. So I just put into the link our AP translation chart. So if your student received a 3, a 4, or a 5, they're going to receive college credits. Remember, UCSB is on the quarter system. So 8 credits is noted there. 4 credits, 8 credits, 2 credits, blah, 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 blah. If the student passed that test and they are asked, well, so for example, I took art history. I'm going to get 8 college credits. It's equal to UCSB Art History 1. So you can scroll through this and see there are certain exams that the score will change what UCSB course equivalent. I use English as the best example. So a 3 gets you 8 credits. It's the equivalent of writing 1, the first quarter of writing. A 4, still 8 credits. It's writing 1 and writing 2. 5, still 8 credits, but it's writing 1, writing 2, and writing 50. That's the entire freshman writing requirement for UCSB. We will do this with official documents that students send us in the summer. So July and August, our office is giving and awarding credits. But if you're trying to get a better grasp of what units you're going to earn and you want that sooner rather than later, you're going to have to manually do it on your own. Well, what about college credits? Well, that's where we go to assist.org. This is dum, 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 dum. So assist.org, I ended up going to Santa Barbara City College and I took English 110. So I'm going to ask English 110. So if it's on this list, boom, there it is. That means you're going to get college credits for it. Yes. And you'll see certain things like UCE, UCM, UCH. These are the equivalents of UC English, UC Math, etc. This is a little less one-to-one, but this will tell you about the units and credits that we'll be giving your student. Uh, this, the reason it takes us all summer is I could have one student who has 3 different community colleges that they did as a high school student. They took AP and they do IB. So we have to see where there's overlap and not duplicate credit. This is why we don't do it before May 1st. We have to wait for official transcripts and test scores. And we do this after your student has said yes to UCSB. All right, there we go. Boom. Question, is it possible to arrange an open house tour on April 5th? Not an open house tour, but a regular tour. Definitely. Our admissions webpage is going to show you that you can visit us. Dun, 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 dun. Campus tours on April. Where's the month of April? April 5th. So you'll see that there's April 5th tours. There's available space in all three of them at the moment that are English speaking, and we have a Spanish speaking tour as well. So I'll put that into the chat for you as well. Okay, answered that question. Let's see. Question, can you be frank about how common it is for students to change their major and what that timeline happens to be? I can completely be frank about it. Yes, thank you for asking. So when it comes to change of major, there are so many students that talk about this and that ask for more information. So I'm going to go back to that fun and exciting applicant portal. And I'm going to point out that it's so common. We've put a link in the portal that goes straight to our change of major webpage. And so your student sees what major they were offered admission to, and in particular, what college within their applicant portal. Uh, I can say, okay, I came in as undeclared. I really want biology. I came in as history. I really want sociology. I came in as sociology. I want to do film. Not a problem. Those are all in our College of Letters and Science. So send an email and follow the instructions online. We'll approve it. Not a problem. Usually will happen within 24 hours. If a student is asking for a change of major into music or dance, I'm going to say no, because those require an audition and those won't happen again until the fall. If your student is looking for the College of Creative Studies, the answer is they have to do a supplement and the faculty have to tell me that I'm allowed to change their major. That could take 4 to 6 weeks. And then finally, the College of Engineering. College of Engineering, we admit into the major. And so if a student never told me they were an engineer, then they didn't go through the process of screening. And so I don't know at this point, and I won't make any sort of changes until after May 1st. Once we know of the engineers who were already admitted, one, is there space? And then two, would you be admitted based off of our selection criteria to engineering? So highly unlikely, but I will point out that for many students, they're like, but I still want to be considered. So all those instructions are going to be on our change of major webpage with instructions on how to do that. Again, I encourage students to tell me, yes, I want to change my major in the College of Letters and Science and to do so no later than the end of May. Question. Should my student find a roommate before hearing back? No, they don't have to. The majority of our students, probably 2/3, don't have roommates lined up before housing goes through the housing allocation process. So your student can find their perfect match within our survey questions and self-assignments. Question. Is it difficult to change from a major of physics to engineering? Just answer that. Is there how many students? Let's see. I'm going to say that one's done. Question, is it possible to pay a bulk of school costs in advance and upfront? Yes, I don't have all those details, but you can definitely talk to our billing office. I'm happy to put that link on the chat later on. Question, how do you get to school when my child's when they reach the airport? How do you get to Santa Barbara? That's a great question. So I'll point out that for UCSB, we have the luxury that where this says transportation and parking services, that's actually in real life the Santa Barbara Airport. So there is a public bus that will pick up and that bus will then drop off. Here's one bus stop. Here's the other bus stop. So there is a public bus that takes you to Santa Barbara Airport. Otherwise, if you need to go to LAX, you're going to have your student either doing a rideshare program with their housemates or roommates. They can take things like the Santa Barbara Airbus, which picks up in Goleta, their stop over here. There's the Amtrak station, this Goleta station or the Santa Barbara downtown station. There are two different trains depending on which stop you go in. So most students who do not have a car will find themselves using that sort of public transportation. Student ID for students is going to be an unlimited access on public transportation in Santa Barbara. There's a fee allocated to bus transport. So that $2.75 fee, I think, will give your student unlimited access during the school year to all the different places, the airport in Santa Barbara, the downtown train station, so on and so forth. Or you can Uber it for $10. I sometimes park my car on campus and just Uber over to the airport, and that works as well. Okay, let's see. How far is Isla Vista from campus? This map is going to be perfect for this particular question. So this is campus, everything in the tan color. Campus proper, let me put some fun graphics on here. Where let's make it red. Okay, so all of this is campus proper, right? So you're gonna find these are residence halls over here. Boom, 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 boom. And then what you're gonna find is all of this is class space. Now, do you see the square right here? This is Isla Vista. This is off campus. But wait, what about this? Well, this is graduate student housing. This is junior and senior apartments. This is actually a freshman residence hall right here. So we surround Isla Vista. When students are talking about is Isla Vista close to campus, it's surrounded by campus. And so it'll be a 5-minute bike ride. It will be a 10-minute walk onto campus, depending on how far you are. And so it's a really an easy way for students to live off campus, but still be part of the campus community. Question. If my student has AP credits, does that excuse them from some prerequisites? I'll go back to yes, and it depends, but not all. I think the hardest pill to swallow for many students is things like computer science or calculus. Those don't really clear you from our requirements. You'll still have to take those particular classes at UCSB. Languages, those tend to be a lot easier. Question. I heard wildfires are frequent in Southern California. Ooh, should we be buying N95 masks for our students this fall? Um, I think LA's Southern California fires didn't really impact us. We didn't feel that, though there have been fires in the area before. And in that case, UCSB does allocate N95 masks. There'll be a public pickup in different locations around campus. I think you're more than welcome to send your student with them, but I don't know that I would put that on the packing list. Is LGBTQ housing the same process or is it randomly assigned? For students who have a request, and that's specifically for students who are part of our LGBTQ community, we highly encourage them to work one-on-one with our housing office to make sure that the housing allocation is the accurate fit for them. If denied work study, are there many opportunities for employment on campus? Ooh, thank you for asking about that. So yes, there are more than 3,000 campus jobs. I know, I said 3,000 campus jobs. You can be a tour guide. We have about 100 tour guides. You can be working the front desk in your academic department. There are several hundred students who work in recreation as lifeguards or coaches, students who work in food service, students who work in housing. I mean, yes, there are plenty of jobs. I will point out that not all jobs are going to be as easy to get. Being a tour guide, we had 200 applications for 25 spots, but housing is always looking for food service help. So it just depends on your flexibility on what you want to do. But last I heard, we had a lifeguard shortage. So all lifeguards raise your hand and come on over. Okay. Question from Rodney. For students entering with an undeclared major, is there a deadline for which they need to declare? And the answer is going to be yes. They'll have until the end of their sophomore year. Though we have a new program in place that started last year, which is going to hone in on our undeclared students, helping them find the right fit hopefully in the first year of university study. They'll meet with an academic advisor. They'll have an orientation cluster, a group of students who are also undeclared, to sort of navigate the differences and sort of pick what might be completely off the table and sort of push that away so that you're only looking at what is realistic. Thanks for asking that one, Rodney. Um, Question, when do sororities rush? You stumped me because I used to know this answer, but I know they changed it. So there were differences in sororities and fraternities and their policy for rushing. And this changed this academic year, and I don't have the answer. I failed you. 12 to 15% of our students are in the Greek system at UCSB. And I'll point out that students can start strolling through that in the fall quarter, but when full rush happens, I don't know anymore. I will find out so that I can get that answer to you. Question, how easy is it for students to get the classes they want? Yes. There's a lot of rumors and myths out there, so let's put things to rest, shall we? Number one, for UCSB, what's going to be really important is that our students who attend orientation this summer, they're going to leave with 12 units, full-time registration for fall quarter. So I highly encourage your student to register for one of the 12 orientation dates. And if it's orientation session 1, 5, or 12, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because we save spaces in classes, the same number of spaces in classes across the 12 sessions. Students will find that after fall quarter, and those who didn't come to orientation, they're going to have a limited number of classes accessible to them if they aren't meeting with an advisor. So massively important that your student meets with an advisor, massively important that they consider orientation. After fall quarter, your student will have a pastime. So depending on the number of units they have, they'll be able to find themselves looking at, an earlier pastime. My pastime is 9 a.m. on Tuesday versus your pastime, which is 4 p.m. on Tuesday. And so that's also important. Students who make use of their pastimes when they open to register for classes, easy breezy. They're not hurt at all. I think the hardest part about class allocation is often that students are looking to take upper division classes as freshmen. That's really not going to happen. We have introduction classes that are built for students, and that's where all the space is in your first 2 years. Nuances of getting classes, orientation, working with academic advisors, making sure that they've got a plan with their department. Okay, question. If my student completed one of their pre-major classes at a California community college and got an A, but they want to repeat the class, is that possible? Probably. It's going to be audited though. They're going to audit the class and that we can't have them get a new grade, so they're not going to earn credits again. So they're taking the class for enjoyment if there's space available. All right, next question. So my son got into CCS, congratulations, but prefers the General College of Film and Media. Can he change his major? Yes. Send an email to the college or to the Office of Admissions and we'll change them out of CCS and into Film and Media Studies. Um, what is the phone fee? You looked at that. So if you're looking at, where's that web page again? Where'd it go? Here it is. So if you're looking at this going, what's the phone fee? Um, this is a budget that's allocated with averages. So I'm not charging them $348 for a phone because guess what? There are no more landlines in the residence halls, but we allocate a fee as part of financial aid so that students can contribute to any of their cell phone costs. Personal expenses could be eating out, going to the movies, or it could be flying back and forth to see you. So note that some of these are averages that we aren't going to necessarily charge your student point blank, but they're part of the financial aid packet. So yes, you can look at the total number on the bottom, but it's more likely that you sort of look at the campuses and fees. So living expenses, are you talking about living in a double versus a triple? A triple is less expensive, so that's a great way to save some money. Thank you for asking that. Question, is it difficult to change from physics to engineering? I already answered that question. Can you keep a bike in your dorm or must it stay outside? Has to stay outside, typically, unless your roommate's okay with it. There are bike lots across campus in the residence halls next to buildings. That's usually where students park their bikes. Um, Conflicting info. Freshmen are allowed to bring cars according to the website, but you said they can. No, freshmen can bring cars. They're not guaranteed a spot, and there are limited parking spots for freshmen, which are on campus. So I don't know where the conflicting info is coming from. If you want to send me a link in the chat, I will happily look at it. Question. What typically should a student look for to secure a student loan? Ooh, those are financial aid specific questions. So I'm going to toss that financial aid webpage back on the screen for you because I don't have answers to loan securing processes. That is not my wheelhouse, and I don't want to misrepresent financial aid in their loan process. So I'll put that financial aid URL, oh, sorry, email there for you. Doo, doo. Okay. So many questions. Do most freshmen bring bikes? Yes, many do. I'd say roughly, I see half to probably 2/3 of freshmen bring a bike. Here's my tip. Are you ready? Something older. Don't make it new and flashy. You want to keep an expensive lock a U-lock versus really expensive bike. There's my tip. You're welcome. Let's see. Are there any summer courses for international students, and do they earn credits? We have summer courses for all students, and those summer courses include our freshman summer start program. It's a way for your students to start in summer as opposed to fall. It's a great opportunity for students who are looking at, say, kickstarting their career in August as opposed to waiting until the end of September. All right, a few of you asked about orientation, UCSB, and so I'm going to pop this. Here are your orientation dates for the summer of 2025. There you go. Uh, Orientation is not active yet. You cannot register until the middle of May. So we give every student equal access to orientation dates. So after the May 1st deadline, students can then say, I'd like to participate in orientation. And that's where they'll go on to the web page. They'll click on the registration link in the middle of May. You are trying to get up on it, and I like it. I like you being proactive. Do I do? Oh my gosh, it's a 56 after. How did it become so late? So I've got probably 2 more minutes, and let me make sure I give you some fun and exciting information. These chats were meant for us to share information with you. As you saw, I just went down and answered questions. We'll do the exact same thing over and over again each week. If you want to come back and ask additional questions, you can, but I wanted to make sure you have your resources in play. Our admitted student playlist is where we give you 3 to 5 minute tutorials on how to say yes, on information about conditions of admission, on all of those things. That financial aid webpage, which has links to scholarships, is there for you. Our financial aid tutorials, there's the QR code, and that admitted student playlist. This really is a conversation that we have as parents. You're a big part of the process. I hope that your student is saying thank you for being there to support them. We greatly appreciate you being part of the process, and we are here to answer your questions. So with that, I will open it up to see what last questions I missed before we say goodbye. And that is open house open to family members? Open house is open, which means grandma, grandpa, cousin, uncles. I welcome everybody to open house. And so before I will clock off, let's make sure you have access to register for open house. So boom, 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 boom. I want to meet you. Can we hang out at open house together? Will you promise to find me? All right. I appreciate that. There we go. This is our open house registration. Let me pop that into the chat. Maybe, maybe not. Copy, paste. All right. So friends, I thank you for joining me. Congratulations once again. If your student was offered admission to UCSB, I want them at UCSB. I want you at UCSB. So please note that we are here to support you, the family, through the process. There are so many things that are coming at you. If you're seeing something that's confusing, if we're seeing conflicting information, please don't hesitate to reach out. Things like, hey, what's the academic calendar? What's the first day of school? All of that, we are happy to link that to you. Respond to the email that invited you to today, and that way we can answer your questions. Your student can schedule one-on-one appointments with our UCSB admission staff. You can come to open house. There are so many ways. Until we meet in person, take care. And again, congratulations. Welcome to the UCSB family.